Work in progress. Current percentage of star's energy being captured. A smidge. It's a little bit. Just a little of solar. Things to do. You start with the smaller sphere, and then you work your way up. The work of creating a sphere begins with many cubes. Yeah, so in order to get things rolling, as that last entirely blue research finishes up, and I think I've bought all the upgrades that I have material for. Yeah, next thing to do is create red cubes. Let's get to it. So to construct red cube, made at half the speed of blue cube, so I'd be thinking about making up to 6 labs worth of cube, and require kind of a plethora of graphite and hydrogen. Things to do. So, labs. Currently holding on to none labs. And produce 6 labs. There we go, enough foundation to start to clean up the immediate vicinity here. So, the blue stack is just doing a fine job of operating right there, right up against the laboratory. I'll have the red stacks, plural, come in on a belt. Into which material needs to flow at a reasonable pace, and then out of which material needs to flow at a reasonable pace. Our destination. Production goals. Many red. And now the work of actually facilitating that red. So I want many more oil refineries. believe that something I can do. Like, I'm going to end up with a use for the light oil as well. But if I wanted to create a facility that I just view as hydrogen producing and serving no other purpose, then I could just as well take the oil and feed it into a thermal generator. Time being. There goes some hydrogen. Stone, iron. This coal, I suppose. Yeah, we can draft this coal into providing science graphite. Already holding a smelter. No mining drill, though. Queue up some of that. Yeah, blue arm is faster than orange arm. Yeah, add some extra parts, and there you go. For now, I am only mass producing the basic arm. Foundation machine is operating at speed. Would benefit from feeding stone in faster. As you do. Nope, getting some power flickers. Going to need more capacity. I'll reverse the direction on this input belt. Does the job well enough. Okay, I can have the labels of all the resources up in the main view at all times. That's a helpful toggle. Alright, we have some small cursory amount of red cube. Science! You'll love to see it. And now, of course, facilitate that, I need to put up more oil refineries, and in doing so, sort out, like, a better pattern for organizing them. Where right off the bat I have a bit of an idea of what should be done. There's an arbitrary amount of distance between them. The latitude that I'm working at means these are, you know, the lines are a little bent, that's fine. So... that, extend power... and go ahead and build myself some thermal power stations, actually. Low on magnets. I'll have to sort those out. For right this moment. Alright, so we'll feed material in through the back. Then I need to bring material out through the sides. So what I'm thinking I could do is, over the course of many of these, have alternating lanes coming out of the one material and the other. Which does mean that for, you know, the start and end of a row, there would be a stray line that is just coming out and being one thing. So let's say oil is on the outside and hydrogen is on the inside. Now that hydrogen will just head out here, whereas that oil go up. Yeah, and so forth. Have this elevated bridge. Is carrying oil cubes off to a destination. And I get to have a sense of perspective here. Wind turbine 300 kilowatts. Thermal station 2.1 megawatts. Solar panel 360 kilowatts. I don't need to stockpile quite this many magnets. Probably, maybe. We'll see. They will all find a home. So yeah, thermal plants. Go find a power line. Generate 15 megawatts, and that is partial satisfaction. We're spiking up to around 20. Getting a couple of carbon furnaces online would do the job. And okay, yeah, they're close enough to just be on the grid immediately. Oil burning. That's wattage. And clearly, it's enough wattage that I could be running more refineries. Let's pave it out. Need to go grab more glass. I was keeping somewhere over here. There's current main stone quarry. At least main quarry of stone for stone's sake. Hold on, what is a plasma exciter made out of? Prisms, which are glass, and coils, which... Okay, I'm low on copper. Indeed. Supply and demand. Fascinating. Okay, let me trim that last bit of belt and then manually nestle that red cube. Okay, it was taken directly from my inventory. Good. Current demand is for way more hydrogen. So with that in mind, what other ways are there to produce hydrogen? Do we have any yet? From oil refining, from mystery cube, from a different way to produce graphite, which is also hydrogen catalyzed. For now, oil is the way to do it. Acceptable. Well, no, actually, because this one is misaligned. A good passive upgrade. Efficiency and speed. I really don't have a charging station down here. Well. There we go. So, part of my thought process here. After feeding a bunch of this material through these burners, I will buffer the rest in fluid storage. Alright, so now I want to fit the rest of these refineries. I do like the emergent shenanigans that are going to come out of the fact that you're making square arrangements of buildings on a round surface. Math itself is out to sabotage your grid. We'll need to adapt. Oil on that. Hydrogen on this. Power right there. Yeah, there's definitely plenty of room for improvement when it comes to the UI for 3D building. Part of the perils of early access, but the power. Already there. Alright, so it's 0.5 stuff per second. No, it's 0.25 for the hydrogen part of things. And be sure that tank is unloading towards the boilers. And yeah, that's more crude there that I could then route into all of this if I am actually keeping up with the first well, which it looks like I am. It begins. It never ends. Oh, robot's hungry. Robot needs snack. Should throw all the lumber into the jet engine. Hopefully at some point automated fuel delivery will be more of a thing. Or I will attain more powerful forms of robo food. Let's see, what upgrades can I grab? More core energy. Better movement speed, although movement speed also comes with energy consumption. More inventory. More drones. Stackums. Stackums 2. And yeah, a bunch of that is waiting until I unlock other regular tech. Yeah, I'll just do a bunch of personal upgrades while I meander about and build more current tech stuff. Then I'll start making decisions about the new science. It definitely seems like the case that I should be making plasma exciters somewhere. Exciters and prisms and so forth. It might be time to just zoop off to another portion of the planet and build my, like, power production mall. Get other pieces of key infrastructure automated. Because let's see, I built a bunch of regular tower for my current supply, but I could do better than that. Yeah, I have this set up. Which was always a temporary measure. You have fulfilled your purpose. I should also have automated smelter production somewhere. Iron, rocks, and fancy bits. Bits that pass for fancy in this current preliminary age. Iron all the way over there, copper here. Maybe. Charge up, have a think. Okay, highlight where resources are as we do a quick orbital look around here. Yeah, okay, hello. Here is a nice equatorial landmass with no useful raw material on it. Here is a place to be. That's free real estate. was over here. It'd be nice to be able to, like, put tags on the map. Navigational aid. Here we go. Here's the spot. This whole stretch here. Since at the equator itself is where the lines are going to be least bent. Here it is. Build a bridge around the middle of the planet. I have not used most of this place's surface area yet. All this vast, pristine, untouched land. Worlds are big. Who knew? Wild and unprecedented. Hydrogen supply seems like it's doing modestly well. While I'm here, I'd like to tap that oil and route it around onto the line, although that may require a bit of surgery. Mild shenanigans. The oil well is quite big. It's fine. I fix. And just to be sure that it gets fully utilized, route this stuff up to all the way over here. Shove a fistful of crude oil into the machine. The oil is edible. Slurp up a giant robot helping. Cool, refreshing hydrocarbons. As is entirely proper, the specter of feature creep immediately hangs over the first idea of a thing to do. Solutions in search of problems. Fortunately, the fact that I've started to draw the line makes this whole area much more visible. Equator is down by... the cement plant, actually. Convenient. Yeah, here we are at like 5 north. Where? Okay, north is down right now. North is now up. Or no, north is over. North is over there. This is the equator I'm standing on right now. Okay. There, now we have power out to the new site. All these wonderful vacant continents. I can work with these. Fresh canvas. Out of dirt. Shocking. So around there is the 180 line. Or wait, 180 west, 180, all right, 190, what? Right here. That's the date line. Yes, and it was the North Pole where I made that one tiny pilot zone, and that first line that I drew is almost down the prime meridian. Convenient. Just take some steps to lay the groundwork of an electroskeleton. Infrastructure. Think about it. Anyway, time to dehumanize and make a main bus. With my thought process beginning. With how long is the reach on one of these arms? Let's throw a machine right up against the edge of the conveyor. Let's chart out what the rules are here. What is my valid? Too far for a basic. 3, though. 3 lanes work with a basic arm. And if I use the upgraded arms, and probably should start thinking about just making the blue arm my standard. If I'm reaching the point where I'm building the production mall, I can afford that level of complexity. Still can't reach 4. Can reach 1, 2, and 3. So I can plan around sets of 3 built. And in turn, to think about it, yeah, so the assembler is the same size as the storage cube. And yeah, I can output to all 3 of those spaces. And bring a charging station out here. Stay electrified. And have a think. As for... Alright, so for like a Mark 1 setup here, where I can start to standardize around it and then refine and more deeply elaborate how it works later. Just adapting to the lack of presence of undergrounds and the different nature of splitters versus basic Factorio tools. I think what I could get away with is, so let's see here. Let's take a count. So I've got for basic materials that are involved in current tech that I'm working with at the moment are iron plate, copper plate, magnet, and then like coil, gear, and chip. Six low-level interrelated things that it could be operating off of which 3 of them come directly from ore. And even before I start to get into the weeds here, there are additions to that, because I left out everything stone-related. But if anything, stone, for its involvement in things like smelters, is a next-layer material. Even though I'm going to want furnaces to interact with this first layer anyway. Rising Z levels is a good question. Alright, let me make a tall shed. Beautiful. Alright, so what kind of tolerances do we have? Angle too wide. Okay, with in particular the fact that it's trying to snap to over there suggests that you would need to be like... draw some more conveyor belt here for experiment and measurement purposes. Well, okay, it doesn't want to reach directly for the lower one. I think the sheer length involved means that that's out of the question for now. Because if... Alright, so if like 3 squares in a straight line is as far as it can reach, and the angle from down here to up there is too steep, then that just means that upper floors are completely off limits for these arms. Because in order to be in range, they would have to be closer. Now, if the belts were themselves on a second floor, then those could directly reach into the second layer. Assemblers don't stack, though. Many considerations await, and who knows, maybe +1 stack is generic? Maybe previously unstackable buildings become stackums? Science remains to be seen. Anyway, for now, in order to conduct the science, as a little pilot program. Let us have a couple of iron bar, a couple of magnet, and a couple of copper bar making machines. Copper will be the third lane. Magnets will be the second lane. Regular ass iron will be the first lane. And so with that in mind, I want a belt of iron ore to show up for all of these, and a belt of copper ore for all of these. Storage and laboratories specifically got boosted.
You have unlocked the vertical construction technology. When building facilities such as Matrix Lab, storage, and storage tank, you can try to build them vertically to make more efficiency use of space.
Nice. Very helpful. Okay, so there are both iron and copper deposits near the equator, because in fact those are like the original ones that I dropped off near. So what if I start to build myself some kind of multi-layered material superhighway around the equator? The fabled information superhighway, a conveyor belt full of data cubes. Yes. Alright, so up above this belt, here's the layer that will have copper on it. And even further above that belt, seems like that's as tall as I can, or no, I can go pretty high. Alright. Potentially invite great and terrible disaster by, beginning to complicate things so much in the third dimension. We'll find out. Okay, so I'm going like 2 steps vertically right now between each of these conveyor belts. Chow down on all this biofuel. Alright, and so with that in mind, this whole line, yeah, let me drop back down to ground level. Travel to an iron mine. Route its material over here. Like this guy. It is almost small enough that I can... Hey, alright. Also alright. Threading that needle. This almost has a spot where it can be both at once. Don't worry about it. Alright. And the excess iron that isn't going into the concrete machine at the moment can just zoom on by and go to the production mall. Because eventually I will tear down and relocate all of these as we refactor and reorganize. All this construction is stressing the battery pretty well, which is good. Look at that arc. Look at that great circle. Soon. Yes, I think the rest of this line is in place, so all of that ore is now on course. And I will need several more belts. A lot of those should be ready. Continue to draw the big line. And yeah, now we've made it back to the belt maker. All of it. I want all the ham. And I think as a compliment to this equatorial belt, you would put in like a second one at 1 degree south, 1.5 degrees south here. Going the other direction. Hold on. Charging post. Looking to divert that copper ore up here. Then to build an entire second copy of this long belt, but tall. It's 2 steps up enough for a belt to zoop over these ore deposits. Yes. Okay, so there's our on-ramp to the mineral highway. Support. Yeah, that'll do. Yeah, there we go. This is the beginnings, I think, of a good paradigm for how we're going to build planet stuff in layers. And at some point, probably, all logistics will happen a ways up from the surface. A ways up. Cosmologically speaking. It also occurred to me that reverse highway probably isn't necessary because you could just close the loop on regular highway. The sound of automated construction drones installing conveyor belts. Squish. Squelch. Long belt. Extend conveyor. Big ring. Mark 1. Tiny baby ring. The bottom belt is full because there's no real consumption happening on the receiving end yet. There are furnaces that are filling up our experimental bus prototype, where nothing is happening. For now. Alright, so if from these I wanted to make, like, gear... and coil, and board, and I'm not worried about throughput at all. I'm not worried about production ratios here, since the purpose of this is going to be for making buildings. So there's not, like, persistent load on this setup over time. This is the mall in which to acquire construction materials for our robot. For direct personal use. Or, wait, no, this... yeah, this one uses the magnets and not the... not the wires. And also, just go ahead and make that a convention. We'll put local power between the lanes so that it isn't taking up space on the outside. So, gear, oil, ship. Yes, and so now, from the fact that I have these materials sitting around like this, allow a bit of space. Now I can have assemblers that are making, say, basic sorter. Although, since I'm going to make something else out of the basic sorters, those should probably be on the next lane over. Since there will be yet further materials to create. But yeah, like, okay, the assembler. Here it is. Take in iron plate here and ship. And there's that again. Stop here, grab... Well, alright, I'm holding a reasonable amount of foundation for the time being. Get everything sorted and compressed. And I can shut off this arrangement here. I take some of the excess material up to the North Pole, I suppose. I have a lot of assembling machinery ready. Continue to drop off miscellaneous materials that don't really have a direct purpose for me yet. Although their time is soon. Some more boxes to the storage henge. And the new work site should be down that way, yeah. It's along this meridian over here. Oh yes, and also, this is not a planet, it is a moon that we are currently on. In our little 4-body system here. Hot planet, gas planet, ice planet, pleasant moon. Yeah, so the work site is currently back this way. Install this here as a promise. Yep, yeah, it's in line with where I had started to draw up from the equator. Okay, so other things to build here. Knowing that some of them are going to need upgrades. I want to be making inserters. I want to be making both small and medium power. And I should be making splitters and storage cubes as well. Though for the time being, yeah, until I actually start importing gravel to this whole setup. Yeah, medium power has glass requirements nested in this fellow. For the time being, I have unreasonable quantities of conveyor belt. But just as well, I can establish Conveyor Maker 2. Belt and splitter. And for the time being, I'll keep very small buffers of these. Definitely going to need more gear. And okay, so those upgrades went through. slam in a few more. Let's get into orbit. Yeah. This is Dyson. This is Spheres. This is where they make the big orb. There's assembly reestablished. Can make basic arm in here for now. Let's leave myself enough room that I can splice in connecting lines plausibly. Also, may get be too soon to really worry about switching up to green arm outside of certain applications. Away. At this point, I do not have a way to construct buildings on higher than ground level. Foundation will level ground to 0. Some buildings are stackable. Conveyors can be made tall. Larger buildings cannot. Oh, this button here is whether you want to leave resources untouched, or you can bury resources underneath foundation when you're paving. Delicious. Healthy looking supply of red cube. The inventory situation is pretty rough. At least take down that assembler, even if I have to leave these storage cubes up for a while. All this material will find a home, given time. Okay, so now, leave myself at a charging station. Gonna bring in gravel. Here's gravel. As good a place as any. One mining drill that I can activate. Or wait, I could latch onto the deposit that is right up against the side of the highway. This enough distance to get up to altitude? No. That is. Off we go again. Alright, so ways that stone is used in my current setup. Made into brick. Made into glass. Glass is in turn made into prisms. So, I had a belt in the air. Over top of this one. And I reach from up here to down there. No. Unfortunate. By the limits of current technology, that is not permissible. Going to be creating another ring in that case. Stone-related material, and then I will figure out how to interweave everything to get the work done. Assemblers do not stack. Furnaces might? No, furnaces do not stack either. Right now, storage and laboratories are the main things that are stackable. Grid needs more parts. Things to do. Which, now that I'm taking this larger view of things and actually dealing with, big slices of the planet at once, I could go scope out a big block of terrain to devote to being Power Zone. Okay, so things to make out of stone byproduct. Want storage. Want cube. Want storage cube filled with other storage cubes. That classic standby. Okay, so standing here downstream of all of that, let's have a think. Have an assembler sitting, like, here. I want this to be Cube Hut. Another one over here I would like to be Furnace Hut. Take in your brick. And take in your chips. Oils. And you can take in your brick. Now I need to sneak iron over here. Twice. How well does a splitter fit into an existing conveyor belt? Is the question that would follow. Or, once again, just to be sure, let's hypothesize a belt that's coming in here crosswise. And I reach down into that building. Tragic. As a stopgap until I possess more advanced belt management knowledge. With the old standby of just buffer crate. That'll do to make several furnaces, especially if I then, like, go and grab a substantial pile of iron plate backlog and bring it over here. Steel. Laying around. Yeah, here we go. Here's the cube that was full of iron. Let's take one shipment from that. Splitting and jumping over and coming back down feels correct. It would just be a question of how much, like, runway do I need to pull it off? Do I have enough flexibility built into the spacing I have here? Or would that call for something else? Something more drastic? Alright, so to address power problems. Step one that we can slam home on pretty short notice is to build a lot of wind turbines. And go convert a big swath of this planet into wind farm. This moon. This opportunity. Iron gear and coil. Okay, now there's a thought. Using cubes is like an intermediary to slide things from one lane to another. Because when you unload a storage cube, you can filter. There is potential in this. For the time being, since I do have the space to work with for it, let's see how short of a ramp I could use to build a bridge. Okay, first of all, is one layer enough to just quickly zoop over and then drop down? Alright, I need to go lengthwise a bit to have room to land. But this would suffice to deliver some iron. And then I just cut the line somewhere, drop in the splitter. No, the splitter's too wide. Then that just means that the splitter needs to be offset a little bit. Okay, in future fancy logistics setups, I probably just want to have one tile of breathing space between each belt. That would provide room for splitters to do their things. And with this in mind, go ahead and move this setup over here. I'll have to adjust all the parts accordingly to get the connections to work right. There. More and more basic tools coming into focus. Okay, so the production chain for a plasma exciter. Glass into prisms. And then combine that with coils. String together the full setup for small and medium power poles, hopefully. Alright, we'll call for bringing over iron again. which can be arranged. Stack of splitters. And yeah, the splitter is also a sorter. And has immense potential for material shenanigans. Okay, so it needs to go at like... It needs to traverse like 4 tiles laterally to move 1 step vertically. Curious. And anyway, it will require breaking the flow of the main line here, but it seems like it's the trailing edge of stuff that I'm building in this mole for this tier. When it is time to create newer and fancier tools, we can start fresh at another locale. Your first generation, your Mark I, starting to make sense of design shapes. And it comes together right as we reach the end of the area that I had allotted for building this mall. And there's a bunch more space back there that hasn't been touched yet. That'll probably do for making my core infrastructure pieces. This planet is going to operate on. Okay, next thing to do, wind farm around the North Pole. things to do. Pave over the North Pole. Just a little off at this latitude. Means the next layer down might have room for another. There's enough surface for me to get everything that we have built put down into some rings. Yeah, it's good enough to push our energy concerns a little further down the road. The one solar panel. Looking good. Yeah, there's some surplus. Right there, we are working on sailing to get into orbit. Yeah, which seems to be the crowning piece of direct robot upgrades for now. So... just go looking around here a bit, trying to find... what's the next big thing? Thruster is clearly important. Levitator is probably important. Fuel rods, presumably important.
The ability to sail. Double-click the space key to lift off to enter the flight mode, and keep pressing the forward direction and space keys in the flight mode, and you will enter the sailing mode when you reach a certain altitude.
who is ready for sailing operations. Okay, maybe these. Yeah, here's an objective. Actually starting to install the preliminary swarm. But otherwise, I'm looking at the tech tree and wondering how put self to space. At some point, in order to access these other materials, I'm gonna have to go to the other planets in the system. So, levitation engines. Okay, prerequisite thruster. Oh, we're charged up.
In sailor mode, you can control the mecha, go to different planets or planetary systems by following the arrows in the space navigation. Hold down the shift key to accelerate, back arrow key to slow down. You can also use the Q, R keys to hold down the right mouse button, dragging to sideward flight.
Okay, that seems incredibly perilous and irresponsible to just whoop off into space at the moment when we don't really have much in the way of fuel capacity. Still, though, good to know that's an option. I guess we just kind of brute force rocket our way to other places in the same system. Yeah, you want to take a lot of snacks for space flight. Make sure you have enough coal to make it home from space. Also got that moment of change up. A little odd. Okay, so I'm gonna collect up this engine maker as well. Try smuggle all of this stuff out of here. I guess, yeah, I could accumulate a lot of bulk material at the North Pole anyway. This is where I have the storage heap. So, let's go drop off a lot of conveyor belt. Couple of things of power pole. A 1 stack of assembler. One stack of arms. That gives me enough space to grab a lot of the rest. Suborbital hops are pretty good for travel. That gets you some places. I'll continue to use this space for science data cube making. It's as good a place as any to keep laboratories. Zoom. Slamming onto the production floor. As furthermore, things I can do. Part of putting material just into circulation of the existing machinery. You take storage cubes and have them dispense onto the belts. As long as I make sure that they're working with the appropriate stuff. What do I make out of engines right now? Nothing for now. But wait, engines are used for Mark II grabbers. Yeah, let's make hand plus. We have Mark I grabbing arm. I can we're out of there. So to make Mark II grabbing arm, you need Mark I grabbing arm and an additional part. And that additional part, the electric motor, needs stuff that is available on these two belts. Okay, so. And proceed to make Arm 1. That is feeding directly into Arm 2. An intermediate storage cube. Which is home to engines and grabber arm Mark II.
The data shows this is a planet without natural titanium veins. Perhaps you can get some by collecting gravel. If you need a massive titanium collection, you need to find a planet rich with titanium veins as soon as possible.
Problem of my own creation. Alright, gotta move all of this a little bit down the road. Arm 1, Arm 2. Basic motor. Alright, instead of an Arm 1 maker for the moment, an Arm 1 storage crate, into which I will filter all of my Arm 1s as I need them recycled and upgraded. Yeah. And in the time it took to do that, hey, here's 50 long-range power poles. And I already have more than enough moderate size. Overshot a bit. Still adapting to the power. I guess, and so another thing I wanted to do. Had that big box of magnets sitting at the old facility here. This one over here. That no longer needs to exist. Gonna move a bunch of these over to the production mall. And I've done all of that without really starting to use any steel. Right now, steel is only used for concrete. Physics. Hydrogen and titanium creates fuel cell. That is what is going to drive planet exploration. There are trace amounts of titanium on this planet, and millions of titanium over here on Sand Planet. Which also has 150% wind power. And boosted solar. Oh, and there's even more titanium out here as well. We have options. And there we go, just deposit all of these magnets. They will all find a good home. And now I have hundreds of Type 2 grabby arms. Productivity. Since this is the only known use of those motors at the moment, I'll load all of them in here. I mean, collide with other object. And there, just unload some more of these. I would hope at some point that the various item cubes on the conveyor belts become more strikingly obvious at a glance what they are. Like, some of them, like the metal ingots, yep, that's an appropriately colored, just plain brick. But a lot of them have the very placeholder graphic from the inventory on the side of a cube. There's room to improve. Alright, so exciters are used in oil handling equipment. I haven't needed a water pump for anything yet. Nothing I know of is made of water. Okay, so thinking about it. Outer planet. Your very small amount of coal, but your reasonable amounts of everything else currently known to exist. And liquid water, and mostly solid mass. It's small lakes of water rather than being mostly ocean. Not great for power, and there's no oil. Pretty good planet otherwise. I think this is my next destination. Versus having much more power, but none ocean, no silicon. Like, without silicon, what am I even making the solar panels out of? Nothing. Immense quantities of copper. Osiris 2 has bottomless hydrogen reserves. Probably bottomless. Fire ice. You know, the hot ice. Alright, so production mall for all of our foundational tools pretty well online. And it seems like the next sprint to achieve. We're living here in the red cube zone. Aside from also scaling up science production, get even more matrices spun out into existence. Go to another planet. Start making fuel rods. Start making logistic friends. Start deploying the swarm. Which, alright, with that in mind, how about I go grab a big heaping helping of fuel? And then make an attempt to, just go out for a walk of space. Alright, so you can also store liquid fuel in regular storage tanks. And that is what lets you pick up just a brick of fuel. Oh, this doesn't stack very tall in solid storage. So in terms of inventory, probably worse energy density. No, well, we'll just have it in the mix. Grab a lot of coal. Shove all of it in your robot mouth. Adventure awaits. Alright, so I'm up. Where am I trying to go? There's Osiris 2. That's a different star. Hold on. Where am I trying to go? There's the star. Osiris 4 is currently 2.67 astronomical units away. Adventure awaits. We sail. Oh, fuel usage has greatly gone down while we're in space, which makes sense. You're only using fuel to accelerate. Boom. The coal doesn't burn very fast. But I think we have a lot of endurance from 20,000 tons of carbon. Gotta wonder if there's any, like, navigational assistance option that would, like, auto-calc what path I should be taking to try and go over there. Because we're not going full Kerbal here with gravity and elliptical flight paths and so forth. Don't need to worry about Hohmann transfers and approach windows. Here in our coal-burning interplanetary spacecraft. Well, there it is. Nailed it. Beautiful. Space. We're here. I did not bring any power generators. Where's your North Pole? Every planet's got a north. Let's find your north. There's titanium all over the place. There is coal on this planet. They have carbon. I have overshot the local North Pole. It's back that way. Seems like a fine, arbitrary self-management thing to do. Arrive on new planet, go to local north, spike down a charging station, and some storage cubes. And that took, like, shy of 200 coal to power this journey. That's a pretty reasonable cost. As far as I've seen, there's no combat, there's no conflict, there's no shoehorned in hostile opposing force. This is a sandbox. This is a place for ideas. Alright, so let's leave, like, a little bit of pocket carbon in there. That's your emergency snack. That'll be enough to let you escape from this planet if you have to. And don't have iron ore, so I can't make coils. That's fine. I will return here with further materials. What would it take to build a solar panel right now? All I need for that is the silicon. I'm not holding any mining drills, though. Alright, so there's still a couple more basic tools that I really need to have getting built and accumulated back on Osiris 2. Well, Osiris 3. So let's fly back. The concept is proven. And yeah, the fact that the planets are going about in orbits means there will be times when they're in conjunction. That would be part of the dynamics of your system logistics. I wonder how fast this oil burns. Yeah, that's a good question. Let's throw it into the engine. Yes, it's like twice as much energy per unit, but in much tinier stacks. Good to know carbon fuel is good enough for our immediate space travel needs. Only need to switch over to hydrogen after we have a healthy supply of titanium and so forth. Landed. We're back. What a fine day out. still need to create more cubes. And as you develop, you create your own landmarks to navigate by. Okay, so mining drill can be made out on this preliminary layer of equipment. Pave my way out here. Constructing. And okay, so thrusters, which are going to end up in high demand, these are made of steel. And my oil equipment is also made of steel, which is, yeah, that's in great part why I haven't needed much steel yet. So with that in mind, I think this concludes a first attempt at making a bus-driven production facility here in Dyson Program. I didn't use this third belt on the third layer yet. This could be a steel belt. Without too much additional fuss. Definitely more experimenting to do before I reach the level of, like, very generally usable all-purpose bus that you, that was a pretty solved subject in Factorio. The whole alternating 4 belts, 2 spaces, 4 belts, 2 spaces. Something similar to that ratio. But I could be assured that at any given time I could take any material off of the bus to the side, work with it, and put something else back onto the bus. Yes, and all of that is before theory crafting out what possibilities await with Tall Bus. Definitely UI concerns with how to actually assemble and disassemble a Tall Bus, if such a thing will come into existence. Explore all of the implications of how things fit together. Like, okay, that each of those is way too long for basics. Although, Mark III arm, how long can you go? It seems like each of these achieves similar length, and yeah, further over and over again confirmation that reaching down is not in their vocabulary here yet. That's the big problem. So if I made stack of box, because these are together a single unit, right? The tall belt could grab there. The low belt then is this the stance? Alright, so if I take that belt is 2 up. Take another whole crate. That unload onto this with say rocks. Yes. Alright, so we have the ability to change altitude using stacks of crates. And then because arms can be filtered... Alright, this provides a lot of options. The details of what exactly to implement using this functionality doesn't immediately entirely spring to mind, but... I recognize a move. About assembler 2. Oh, we have to learn how to make titanium anything. Of course. Steady logistics drone. Gonna fill out the queue with all manner of red-blue technology. Alright, so when I go to build my, my production equipment for stuff made of oil and steel and a couple more materials, when I do all of this again, but south of the equator instead of north, I will start to experiment with the possibilities for stacking tech. I could be building liquid storage as well. Let's arrange for that as a send-off here. Okay, so just to begin with, new tech for sending things from one side of the belt to the other. Throttle you to 1. I'll take the end of this belt. Circle around. Can't directly feed the belt into the crate, but I can send stuff in right there. Probably also could have had it try to grab from that iron over there, but hey. Don't worry about it. Science is happening. Or, wait, no. Not glass, this is chips. extend the stoneware belts around this. Back onto the ground. There you go. Alright, you will have to settle for just swerving around the box on the ground. Arms can go from belt to belt. They can be used for transfer or swapping or cleaning. How well does a carousel behave? Pretty reasonably. I have not yet seen a limit to how far up a belt is allowed to go. Buildings have a stacking limit that scales with technology. This is how tall belt can be. For now. Perhaps forever, to be determined. Yeah, definitely see a lot of possibilities across those discoveries then for the next iteration of this to go further beyond. Or yeah, Production Mall 1 here, this is essentially a Factorio design. Each of these overhead bridges would be a belt tunnel. But nothing about this layout wouldn't be out of place on the 2D plane. Some real good looking space. Look at that. Look at that orb. If only assemblers were stackable. Who knows? Maybe the better assembler might become stackable. And purple cube is up here. Oh, purple cube is after yellow cube. So where does yellow cube unlock? Around here somewhere. Okay, structure matrix. Yeah, there's yellow cube. Behind high strength crystal. Mini fusion generator, which runs on deuterium fuel rods, which are made of deuterium with some supporting material. All right. Things to do. Next time. Next time.